Trade season is upon us. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you have not already subscribed, go ahead and do that below. Today, we're discussing that glorious point of the season where all of us want trades, yet none of us can agree what fair value is. And because of that, after watching this video, I'm sure that most of you will assuredly be coming for my head in the comments section. But regardless, we're looking at 6 Brooklyn Nets trades that, in my humble opinion, are worth looking at. Coming into the deadline, the Brooklyn Nets are stocked with an injury exception worth $5.7 million from Spencer Dinwiddie's ACL tear, as well as Brooklyn's mid-level exception of $5.7 million that was left over from the offseason. With these two exceptions, the Nets are surefire favorites in the buyout market as both a championship contender and a team that can offer quite a bit of money to guys like Andre Drummond, Otto Porter, and LaMarcus Aldridge, if, of course, the Nets were interested in those guys. But the Nets also have a trade chip in Spencer Dinwiddie. Trading for Dinwiddie, a fringe all-star in his own right, has its benefits. Whoever trades for him would get his bird rights, which would mean they could sign him over the cap. And all in all, I would expect teams that are looking to contend maybe next year as ideal candidates for him, given that he's going to be out for likely the rest of the season. This isn't me saying I want to see Spencer Dinwiddie traded, but he is the team's best trade chip, worthy of a rotation piece per Hoops Hype's Michael Scotto. And this is just a fun exercise. Let's get into these trades. Toronto, likely going the other direction in some sort of a retool, sheds upcoming free agent Norman Powell for the chance to bring back Spencer Dinwiddie. Already, based on reporting from The Athletic's Shams Charania, the Raptors have expressed interest in Dinwiddie at the deadline. In this situation, I'm working under the assumption that Toronto does indeed deal Kyle Lowry, and so picking up Dinwiddie would give the Raptors a downhill scoring option to pair next to Fred VanVleet for the next iteration of Raptors basketball. A swap for Norman Powell, shooting a blistering 44.8% from 3, including 45.9% on his catch and shoot shots and 41.8% on his pull-ups, all coming together to put him at a career high 19.6 points per game, could make some sense. If you need to add a couple of seconds into this deal, so be it. Outside of just shooting the hell out of the ball, Norman Powell offers a little bit of zip in transition. Toronto's fast break numbers improve substantially with Powell on the floor, and a lot of that just comes down to him being a springy, high-flying option. All in all, this is a talent grab with a team that has some interest in Spencer Dinwiddie, and because of that, I think it makes some sense. Thad Young isn't exactly what the Nets need, but he's a good player who has thrived while moonlighting as a center in Chicago. Playing in the short role and from the elbows has allowed him to tack on a career-high 4.4 assists, nearly double his previous best of 2.8, which he set as a Timberwolf, as well as a career-best 61.1% true shooting, with a lot of that coming from floater range, where he shoots 55% from, which is 84th percentile at his position. Dinwiddie gives the Bulls a real option at point guard, apologies to Tomas Satoransky and Kobe White, to compete while also giving the Bulls a solid defender to place next to Zach LaVine. This should be looked at as a retooling season anyway for the Bulls in the first year of a new front office's era. So giving up a solid player for a guy that may not play this year doesn't matter that much in the short term. The Bulls would basically be adding a younger player that can give them some real juice next season, as they figure out what to do with Lauri Markkanen, Wendell Carter, and some of their other young options in the short term. Even when Klay Thompson comes back from injury, the Warriors are in need of ball handling chops next to Stephen Curry, now that Andre Iguodala and Kevin Durant are out of the picture, and Sean Livingston as well. Fittingly, Dinwiddie would be the perfect Sean Livingston replacement, a tall guard who can drive and kick and find Stephen Curry off ball. Oubre, a hyper-athletic wing that brings a little bit of fire to the table, could be a nice fit for the Brooklyn Nets. After a rough first month of the season, Oubre has rebounded considerably, shooting 36.5% from 3 since then. Impact metrics, like Defensive Raptor, project him as average on that side of the floor, though he has graded out well as a pick-and-roll defender. He's maybe not as much of a plus as some make him out to be on defense, but he's definitely better than what the Nets are working with right now, and if the three-point shot continues to fall, he's definitely playable in the rotation. Truthfully, I probably like the deal a little bit better for Golden State at face value, but Oubre's a good player who would contribute for the Nets, and there's a good chance he's better than anything the Nets could land in an off-season sign-and trade, which has been a reported possibility for the Nets going forward. At first glance, Josh Richardson is having a down year, shooting just 32% from 3 while coming up short of expectations in Dallas. If you look at the rest of his offensive game, he's shooting 49% from mid-range and 68% from the rim, so there's a good chance he's just miscast as a 3-and-D guy when he's probably more of a slasher, and his performance on drives certainly suggests that that is indeed the case. But the down year doesn't just come on offense. Right now, the Mavs are actually better on defense when Josh Richardson is off the floor, which is surprising considering defense was his calling card coming into the NBA. And historically, I would say this is more of an outlier, as he really has been a plus defender for a majority of his career. Rather than being thrust into unnecessary ball handling reps, he can focus on just spacing the floor occasionally, slashing when defenders close out to him too aggressively, and honing back into those defensive instincts that made him such a promising player to start with. As for Dallas, the value of Spencer Dinwiddie speaks for itself. He eases the pressure on the Jalen Brunsons of the world in those non-Luka Doncic minutes, and he's a guy that can help greatly next year in the instance that Dallas does indeed go all in. This one's very similar to the last trade, except instead the haul is Dorian Finney-Smith, who guards a little bigger than Josh Richardson. He's typically taking on forwards versus guards, and he shoots 34% from the other side of the floor to balance things out. He had a tough run-in with COVID-19 this year, so he's just now getting his legs under him, but this guy's a really nice 3-and-D piece. He'd fit excellently in Brooklyn's rotation. Now, the value of Finney-Smith is his bang for the buck. He's owed just $8 million over the next 2 seasons, and that's without an opt-out clause. $4 million per season is great for a rotation player, thus the second-round pick, or maybe 2, or whatever it takes to get it done. With a need at the forward position for some hard-nosed defense, Dorian Finney-Smith would not be a bad place to turn for the Brooklyn Nets. Lonzo Ball is reportedly interested in leaving New Orleans even as a restricted free agent this offseason, assuredly for a bigger market. And because of that, Brooklyn would be a great place to land. The hype around Lonzo is real. He's one of the best role players in the league, and he's just waiting for that next home. At this point, he's more of a wing than a point guard, making him a great fit as the ideal 3-and-D guy for Brooklyn. Speaking of those threes, he's shooting 39% from deep, including 41.2% on his catch and shoot looks. He can also handle in the pick and roll in a pinch on an admittedly lower volume. And in transition, the Pels are 1.2 points better with him on the floor, which is the 74th percentile at his position. What that basically means is that he kickstarts and adds a lot of fire to the fast break, which has been a big source of offense for the Nets this season. Lonzo's been a plus on defense basically his entire career, grading out in the 78th percentile in terms of on-off ratings for his team's respective defensive ratings. As for the Pelicans, Dinwiddie gives them a chance to bring in a real deal point guard next to Zion Williamson. Apologies to Eric Bledsoe. Dinwiddie can capably space the floor off the catch when Zion Williamson handles, as he has been with increasing frequency this season. And then on the other side of that equation, we know he's a masterful pick and roll creator. Just judging by the reports, the Pelicans are handcuffed by this entire Lonzo Ball situation, so getting a player back of the caliber of Spencer Dinwiddie would be a huge plus for the organization. And that just about wraps things up. Let me know your favorite trade of the bunch and if there was any trades that I may have missed. In general, I wanted to try to make up trades for guys that are also expiring, guys that are currently being shopped, or even guys that are on teams that are going the other direction, or they just don't seem all that comfortable in their current homes. With the overarching theme of not costing a first-round pick, as the Nets don't exactly have any of those. So if I missed anybody and they do fit under those pretenses, do let me know below in the comments section. But please try to be nice. And with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and go ahead and share this video on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. If you enjoyed this content, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. The link is below, as I'm sure I'll be very wrapped up with the week of the trade deadline, which is... it's always crazy, man. But that's all I've really got today. Thank you guys for watching. Peace!